So Mackenzie was born with hypoplastic left heart syndrome, which is HLHS, and what that means is that her left ventricle is underdeveloped to the point where it does not function. So she's a single ventricle patient. Both of her major arteries come out of her right side of her heart.
We found out about Mackenzie's heart defect when I was 16 weeks pregnant. The ultrasound tech was having like a hard time seeing the left ventricle. And so she took a bunch of pictures and measurements, and then when they came back to talk to me, they just said that they didn't see the left side of her heart, and like something like that could be like incompatible with life. So they like warned us, like, you're gonna come back in 2 weeks, but we're not sure if there'll be a heartbeat. You know, they didn't know if it was fetal distress, and they didn't know what was causing that low heartbeat. But then her heart like tried to kind of like reconfigure itself. Since there wasn't that left ventricle, it did the double outlet right ventricle, because it tried its best to like work with what it had, which was actually like pretty, I mean, that's what we heard some of the doctors say, like, you know, her heart did the best, you know, with how it was developing. Yeah, and they're like, that double outlet right ventricle like helped it, and her aorta actually was okay, which typically the first surgery is like days after birth. They have to fix the aorta because it's so narrow, and her aorta was good size the whole time, so she avoided that first surgery completely when they're the most fragile, just because her aorta developed fine.
So she had her first stent at 5 weeks. She had her pacemaker surgery at 5 months. She had a second stent at 7 months, which they just kind of enlarged the first stent. Then she had her Kawashima procedure, which is like a mix between the Glenn and the Port of the Fontaine, at 15 months, when she was finally big enough for that.
And that was like her open heart surgery to kind of you know, reroute her circulation so that she can live with a single ventricle. But they said that since the surgery went well, there's no other like planned surgeries out in the future right now. They're going to see how she does with this one, because it is kind of like a blend between the second and third stage of the repairs they typically do for a hypoplastic left heart.
They really have their procedures kind of dialed in. They know what they have to do, and they are complicated surgeries, but they have a really good team, and we felt comfortable. We were nervous the whole time. I think I was more nervous than you were, but we had full confidence that they knew what they were doing.
And they have the adult congenital heart doctors there too, so she might not be able to see her same like Dr. Patel, but then she could switch over to one of the adult congenital heart physicians. So I think that's just great that like they would have this, you know, continuity of care her whole life, from the day she was born until she reaches adulthood and still needs that congenital heart care. I think that we're thrilled with the level of care that Mackenzie's received at the Congenital Heart Center. And everyone is just like so willing to explain things to us and let us ask questions and say there's no dumb question, like ask what you're feeling. And I think they've just been like, it's really a comprehensive program, and they have, you know, everything that we need there. And I've been really thrilled with the care she's received.
I had no clue the service that they offered and the depth of those services. And now that we need a whole bunch of them, it's very reassuring to know that there is nothing that we have wanted or needed that we didn't have. And so not only are we just thrilled with the medical staff, but the fact that the cafeteria is open 24 hours a day, there's always a hot meal. The custodian staff, pastoral, you know, food services, everyone was just wonderful. The whole heart center is, you know, having it here rather than in Chicago or St. Louis, I don't know what we would have done. We would have missed out on so much of life.
And our oldest son had just started kindergarten like right before she was born. So having, you know, the children's hospital so close to home, we were able to like help him with his homework and get him from school and do their homework and put him to bed. And then we were able to go back to be with Mackenzie at night. And it was just such a blessing that we were able to do that, because I feel like you know, it might have been harder on them had we not been able to be home, like had they had to be with their grandma or someone for such a long period of time. So we're just thankful that we were able to do both, and you know, be there for Mackenzie and be there for our boys. Yeah,
I think at this point we're taking one day at a time. We count every day as a blessing, and we're expecting to have a lot of them.